look at photo number 1, which is the first letter that was sent to Mary.
One sec. So it's like the poison pen letters we used to get as kids. I know where you live. I've been observing your house and know you have children.
This wasn't a one-off letter, Darcy. Soon, dozens of these poison pen messages began arriving in mailboxes throughout Circleville, Ohio. So it started to rip the seams of this little tight-knit community pretty well wide open apart.
Welcome to Seeing Dead People, the slow burn storytelling podcast where our host, Nicola, challenges her psychic friend Darcy to communicate with the dead and unravel historical ghost stories, unsolved true crime mysteries, and all things paranormal. If you want to be spooked, amazed, and entertained, stick around for an astonishing, deep dive convo with the spirits on the other side. And now, Radio Sydney presents Seeing Dead People, Episode 53, Secrets of the Circleville Poison Pen Letters.
Hey, Darcy, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. How are you doing, Nicola?
I'm peachy, thank you. It's a beautiful sunny day, and I'm delighted to be talking to you. And thanks for taking the time. I know you're always really busy. For the most part, Darcy, it's not unusual for us to dive into deeply disturbed minds. But in the past, most of that investigations resulted in violent crimes like kidnapping, assault, and murder. Pretty vicious stuff. Today, we're investigating a deeply disturbed mind, but the result is something very different and very bizarre. So I'm just wondering, have you any ideas, any inklings of what we might talk about today and where we might be headed?
Well, because I have been touring Nova Scotia looking in small towns, we're going to go with small towns because small towns are always full of gossip, aren't they? I mean, I know we've dealt with a couple of small towns, but because you've already opened this up that it's not the same, I still think we have some of the same, not necessarily murder and mayhem, but I feel as though we may be looking at something like it, but more, I don't know whether to say it doesn't actually happen, but you know how, like I said, small towns have gossip. Oh, I do see a cornfield. So I don't know if a cornfield is connected to this, like if it's connected to the town or whatever, but I see a cornfield.
Oh, cool. Well, I don't know that. I mean, the town is a rural town. It probably has cornfields, but a cornfield doesn't necessarily relate specifically to the storyline.
No, but it may have a connection. It's like I wrote something out to a lady last week and it said see night. And she went, I said, I don't know if I've done it right. She says, well, let me just change this. Does this look better? And I went, oh yeah, that's right. So I had the right sound. So the corn or clover or something may be connected to the town as well.
Okay. Well, let's continue to see what happens. Well, we're traveling south and east past the old 49th parallel down to the great state of Ohio to a small rural town called Circleville. Okay. Have you ever heard of it?
Never. I might maybe way back when I was a young person, but
okay,
probably never paid attention.
Okay. Well, Circleville's claim to fame, at least before this chain of events that we're going to discuss, was its annual fall pumpkin festival.
Cornfields.
It has, in fact, the town's water tower, you know, that classic structure you always see with the name of the town on it, is shaped and painted like a giant pumpkin.
Cool.
Exactly. Isn't that small town? I mean, it's wonderful. So I'd like to imagine you're a woman named Mary Gillespie. You're living in Circleville in the spring of 1977.
Okay.
You're married. You have a son and a daughter, and you drive a school bus. So you're pretty well a typical Ohio woman of the time.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Something arrives for you in the mail without warning. And as you will see, Darcy, it's a letter written in crude block letters. So right now, I'm just going to mention to our audience that I can't provide all the photos for them to see because they're copywritten. However, I've done some of my own handwriting analysis here so that I can show the audience a bit. So we'll have some photos I can show and some you and I can look at. So if you would look at photo number 1, which is the first letter that was sent to Mary.
One sec. So it's like the poison pen letters we used to get as kids.
You got a poison pen letter as a kid? You're right. It is poison pen letters, but I never got one. You got a poison pen letter?
Well, I did, and my one sister got like a dozen of them.
Did you ever find out who sent them?
Oh, I knew who sent them, but they never admitted to it. So
Oh, okay. I should have even asked, like, you, of course, intuitively probably would know who sent them.
you said letter number or
Letter
picture
number
number one.
Yeah, it starts with Mrs. Gliss.
Okay. Do you want me to read it?
Yes, I do. I'd like you to read it if you could. Can you read it?
You'd like me to read it out loud? I was sitting here reading it.
Oh, sorry. Yes, please read it aloud.
Mrs. Gillespie, stay away from Macy. Don't lie when questioned about meeting him. I know where you live. I've been observing your house and know you have children. This is no joke. Please take it serious. Everyone concerned has been notified and everything will be over soon.
Exactly. That's a little spooky, isn't it? So this letter, Mrs. Gillespie is being threatened to stay away from someone named, I think it's Massey, but I'm not sure if it's pronounced that way, but I'm pronouncing it Massey. And Gordon Massey is the local school superintendent, okay? He married and he has a son. So when we look at the letter, we know the writer is saying they're watching her house.
Yeah.
And her children. That's starting to get pretty terrifying.
Did you notice it's all in caps?
And all in, exactly. Thank you for noticing that. It's all in caps and it's also written on lined paper, taking two lines per letter. So quite an effort to write it in that manner, I think. Yeah. And as you found when you were reading it, it's actually so carefully written. You had observe, and then it goes to the next line.
Yes.
Observing, you had to move to the next line. Instead of putting observing on the next line, they actually broke it, in the old-fashioned way of writing, that you would break a line and start up that same end of the word and the next line.
Yeah, like the children.
Exactly.
And
yeah, very odd. So this is, of course, and it's odd, like it says, everyone concerned has been notified. So who is everyone concerned? We know Mary's concerned. Does that mean Massey, who's also concerned, has been notified? Who else might be concerned?
Yeah, the child.
Yeah, and what's going to be over soon? Everything will be over soon. What does that mean?
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
Like when you look at the letter, okay, you're going to probably ask this question. Do I believe it's a man or a woman who sent this letter?
Absolutely.
When I look at this, to me, this is a female, and it's because the A still has that rounded, where I think a guy might have done the A as a stick, to more like, and normally this would be from a woman because it's a woman who notices.
Exactly. Mostly poison pen letters are written by women because it's, number one, an indirect snipe at somebody, because direct confrontation is difficult for women. And number two, as you say, it's related to personal, intimate details. Many men may not focus on that. However, men do write poison pen letters.
Yes. But interesting. Now, on this side, I'm saying I think it's a female. But when I look at the letter, one of the things I learned in school is that men don't have the same cursive writing. Very seldom, unless they practice. Men have that same elegant cursive writing as most females. When I look at this, I'm now going to say to you, it is feasible it's from a man because of the blocking. Men tend to block their letters. The only thing is the M and the A are throwing me.
Okay, and let's describe it. The A's it's interesting. When you look at the first line, it says stay away from Massey. All the A's are rounded.
Yes. Okay?
Look way down to the bottom, the last line, and it says, and everything will be over soon. The A in the and is squared off like a little tower.
Yes.
So two different styles of writing A.
See, I would say that little tower would make it a man.
Okay. Well, interesting that it changes in the actual letter itself, because obviously it would take a lot of concentration to write a letter in this literal manner. Okay. So what I want to do is show you photo number 2, which is my recreation of a couple of words. Okay. That I'm trying to do my own little analysis with you. So I picked the words, and I'm going to show them our audience because I can. Okay. Mrs. Gillespie, stay away from. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you notice, what I said is the A's are rounded capitals, except for that last A, but mostly the A's are rounded capitals. The Y is an interesting goalpost look.
Yeah.
Very different. The W is a rounded W, like the proper term W. It's not a double V. The O is rounded, and the G is kind of an interesting double hooked end.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so that's, I presume this is, my understanding is this is the very first Circleville letter. So I'm presuming it's written by the original Circleville writer. Okay,
Okay.
I'm using those 5 letters as my test letters to go forward because we're going to look at other letters. Okay, so based on what I'm saying and what you're saying, it could be based on my lettering, but you're saying it could be a man or a woman based on what you're seeing.
Until that very last A, I would have said this is a woman, but then I look at that last A and actually the D's.
Okay.
I think they feel this is a man, but I'm still on the fence about a female being involved.
Okay, cool. I think it's really fascinating to see something written like this. I know block capitals are harder to judge someone's writing style when they use a block capital. So that's a good idea on the writer's part. Okay, so I want you to look at, that was photo number 2. I'd like you to see and meet our gal, Mary Gillespie, in photo number 3. So let's have a look at Mary.
She's very pretty.
She's pretty. Yeah, she's sort of like just a classic brunette, attractive woman of like the sort of 70s era. She's just lovely.
Yeah, she is. A nice smile. She
Lovely
doesn't.
eyes.
Yeah, lovely eyes and dark curly hair. Yeah, very pretty. So this is the lady who's getting the letters.
Exactly. This is the lady who's being accused of doing something with Mr. Massey.
Yeah.
Okay. What does this photograph of Mary tell you anything about her?
Just, I get a very kind, gentle. I don't see her as fooling around with anyone.
She just looks like just apple pie and good American
sunshine
values kind of person. Yeah. Well, this wasn't a one-off letter, Darcy. Soon, dozens of these poison pen messages began arriving in mailboxes throughout Circleville, Ohio. So it started to rip the seams of this little tight-knit community pretty well wide open apart. So let's see another letter that was sent to Mary in photo number 4.
Okay.
Okay. And would you read this one to us? It's a bit longer, but it's got some very distressing statements in it. And I think it's worth our audience hearing. And it's addressed in a different manner. It starts with lady. Okay, go ahead.
All right, lady. This is your last chance to report him. Now that's underlined.
Yeah.
Interestingly, is it semicolons?
Yes, it's a semicolon to kind of break the sentences.
I know you are a pig, underlined, and will prove it and shame you out of Ohio. A pig sneaks around and meets other women's husbands, and behind their back only causes families, home and marriages to suffer. You are such a pig, and I will prove it. Why doesn't he come to your rescue, or has he too much to lose? His wife, in which pigs like you take advantage of. His $28,500. Okay, first of all, I'm going to say this can't be someone who is literate because, first of all, why use the semicolon?
Right.
Okay, the way they're writing it and the structure of the sentence. Okay, I'm going to go with a man.
Okay.
His $28,500 a year job or his kickbacks. How your little girl she grow up to be like you. How's your little girl? Okay, so they're definitely pointing out, I know your child.
Yeah.
And the question mark. But see, now that last little bit would be a lady who would threaten something.
I would agree with you. And I would certainly agree with you that the person is not literate. The grammar is wrong. The idea of the semicolon. But the person has intimate knowledge. How does this person, Gordon Massey, makes $28,500 a year? And I don't think in 77 that kind of information was commonly known as it might be today. Public information. The term "you are a pig" is a funny thing to call somebody for cheating behind their husband's back. I've never heard anyone called a pig in that regard. Yeah. Calling a woman a pig, another woman possibly calling a woman a pig. It's a very strange letter, that's for sure.
A woman would normally call another woman a cow.
I would have thought so. Pig's a funny term. Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you look at number 5, photo number 5, I can show you, again, my little attempt, and we can show the audience a little bit about this. So here's my attempt at analyzing this letter. So I have chosen the words lady, will, and prove because they give me all my letters. So you'll notice now we have a square capital A, Darcy, like the last A in our first letter. We have the goalpost Y. We have now a sharp double V for a W, not a double U. We have, again, the rounded O. and we have the same hooked end G. So 3 out of the 5 letters are similar, but 2 are different.
Okay. You know the goalpost Y?
Yep.
You know why? That alone makes me think it's a man. Have you ever seen a coach write the goalpost?
Yes.
That's how they write it.
Good point. Yes, and that would be something men, especially in Ohio, would have in their purview, goalposts,
Yes.
whereas perhaps a woman wouldn't, especially in 77.
Yep.
Okay, so does this mean then that our letter is written by someone different than the first time? Or is this mean this person who's writing it is trying to deliberately obfuscate the situation by changing their lettering?
No. I think that they're getting a little more laxed in the way they are writing their letters.
So are they becoming more true to themselves?
Yes.
The fact that they made changes to the A and changes to the W. That's those 2 letters that you're now saying might be more similar to what they would normally write.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. So they're starting to reveal themselves a little bit.
See, and okay, right now I'm just going to go. At this point, I'm still inclined to think it's male, but is it a young male or an old male? Because the handwriting is not really steady.
No, but I would think I tried to do this writing with the 2 things, 2 letters, and then to write that large, the 2 lines is actually unusual. We don't normally write that large. And they're very careful about keeping right in the top of the line and the bottom of the line, stretching their letters out. That would be hard work. So I don't think it's as easy movement, easy fluidity in the hand. So
Yeah.
that might hide the fact that they're either young or old. I don't know. Okay. So it seems obviously that Mary Gillespie is the main target. And I'm going to tell you, she denies having an affair with Massey. Okay. So it's interesting they use the term lady this time and not Mrs. Gillespie.
Yes.
It's also kind of even more chilling that they mention her daughter again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not her son, her daughter. They know the person writing it knows a lot about Mary and her family. So who writes this kind of disturbing garbage, just nasty, cowardly garbage, Darcy? What kind of person does that?
Well, we can look at a psychopath or someone with not quite all the marbles in the right place. We can look at someone who's jealous, maybe wants to have that affair with Mary. And again, we could also, if we look to the wife, because if who she's seeing is in a relationship or married, that's where it could become the wife. She's aware of it, but she wants it broken off, but won't go directly to the source.
So you're saying Mrs. Massey?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So, or it could even be, if we want to peg it on her husband, she knows, Mary's husband knows.
Right.
His way of trying to break it up to make sure it doesn't have any stronger of a connection.
Okay. So, yeah, the person could be, as you're saying, jealous, wanting to have that relationship, wanting to punish her for they think she's having this relationship.
Yeah.
Wants to punish her, either punish her or
Or
punish
her family.
or punish both of them for some reason.
Yeah.
This is, it could be a depressive person, I guess, someone who's really holding a grudge of some sort, a manipulator. There's, I guess, a number of ways of personality traits that can come out that result in this kind of behavior. These letters continue, Darcy. They continue to come. They don't just come to Mary. They start coming to her husband. They start coming to other people in the community. So let's look at what the letter writer sends to Ron Gillespie, Mary's husband. In photo number 6, you'll see a shorter letter. And would you read this one to us? This is
Sure.
from Mr. Gillespie.
Mr. Gillespie, you're doing a lot for her. No one cares that much for anyone this day. Make him come to her rescue, but he won't. He's being awful good lately. He knows what he must do, but he won't. Make her admit the truth. Call the school board. His affairs must stop. Everyone will know soon. Think of yourself. Okay, a couple of things. Affairs. Are they trying to imply he's having more than one?
Yep.
And this is like stirring the pot, right? I've sent it to the husband now. Now the husband's going to get suspicious. And did he not think that the wife might have seen this before the husband did?
Good point. Who opens the mail?
Yeah. And if you look at Gillespie, did
Yeah.
you notice how he changed his G?
Good for you. That's part of my little analysis. Yes, he does. Absolutely changes his G. you'll notice a couple other changes as well. I
Yeah.
want to highlight a couple of things. You're doing a lot. The your is spelled inappropriately. The word much is spelled wrong. M-U-S-C.
Yeah.
That's really weird, I think.
Sound-
Like, much is a pretty common word. Where'd you get an S in there?
Probably because, like I said earlier, not literate.
Exactly. Not literate at all. So that tells you a little bit about the person, but doesn't tell us, whether it's male or female. It doesn't tell us an age, but we know they're not well schooled. That's about all we can say.
No.
So I've again done my little analysis so I can show the audience. So have a look at photo number 7, which shows my analysis of this letter. And I've got a few words I've chosen so I can get the letters. So I've chosen Mr. Gillespie, before I get the G, your, day, wound, and good.
Yeah.
So if you notice, that we now have a sharp capital A. We no longer have a tower kind of squared off A. We have a real straight kind of tower A. So that's different. We have again the goalpost Y. That continues through all the letters. We're back to a sharp W. So it's not rounded anymore. It's sharp. We keep the rounded 0 or O, and we have kind of a different hooked end G.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, we got some of the similarities, but some differences. And so are you going to agree to continue to say the more the differences come in, they are showing more of the real writing?
I think so. I think that the person, first of all, they should be right-handed, just the way the slant is going.
Yeah.
I'm still leaning towards, I keep hearing man in my head. So I'm leaning towards man, but there's still a piece of me that feels that this could be a vindictive lady, but I'm going to say I know it's based on jealousy.
Okay, good. Well, that seems to make good sense to me. Okay, so we have a little change in the writing, and as you say, it's possibly revealing a bit more about the person. Now, the couple, Ron and Mary, finally admit the receipt of these nasty letters to Ron's sister, who's named Karen, and her husband, who's named Paul. Freshour is the last name, kind of an unusual last name. Mary has an idea, she says, as the possible culprit. She thinks it's a fellow named David Longberry, who's a fellow school bus driver who made advances to her, and she shunned him. Okay?
That makes sense.
And this is where your jealousy idea comes in. And I think jealousy is probably one of the most powerful emotions we've got. Okay. She believes he's angry about the past rejection, and he's taken to writing the letters to express his frustration and anger. The foursome together discuss this, and they eventually decide we're going to write David himself and tell him to stop writing letters. They do so. Doesn't make much difference. So over the next few months, letters keep coming in. They go to Mary's family. They go to Mary's friends. They go to Gordon Massey himself, got letters. They all are filled with accusations. They're targeted, though. The accusations, they're knowledgeable. They know intimate information about these people's lives. They're not just stabbing in the dark. I saw what you did. Question, exclamation mark. It's something very specific. And there are always demands that Mary ends this affair, okay, continuously. The messages are blunt, they're vicious, and they're very personal. And I think to receive one would be distressing. To receive many, many of these things would be so alarming and terrifying. I think I would be really unnerved.
So, out of curiosity, did these letters actually come in the mail?
They came in the mail. Many of them postmarked from Columbus, Ohio, which is a large city closer, not far away from Circleville, but no addresses, no return addresses. They, as I said, have some real personal attacks. And I want you to look at photo number 8. I've just sampled some of the statements made in some of the letters. If you wouldn't mind reading the notes that are outlined in photo number 8. These are the sorts of statements people are receiving.
All right. So everyone knows what you have done. Make her admit the truth. I know where you live. I've been observing your house and know you have children. This is no joke. Mr. Gillespie, your wife is seeing Gordon Massey. You should catch them together and kill them both. You have been watched. Failure to comply and you shall suffer. I know you are a pig. A pig sneaks around and meets other women's husbands. Wow. Did they take this to the police?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Soon the whole town is involved. The whole town knows about these notes. The whole town's getting these notes. And it's like a place of about 10 to 12,000 people. So, it's not a very big place. Pretty horrific things. You should catch them together and kill them.
And oh my
God, exactly. Failure to comply and you shall suffer. So not only is this person jealous, they feel that they are the ultimate arbiter, decider. They're going to provide retribution. They're going to provide punishment. They're like high and mighty. which is typical, right? They feel slighted and they feel that they're better than others. Okay, so they also warn, the writer warns, if you don't confess, I'll go public. And they did, and I say they because we don't know who it is, and they did go public. So one day, this is all going on, Mary's driving her school bus to school, picking up kids along the route. And she notices there are signs appearing along the route with nasty statements about her and her relationship with Massey. So it's not just writing letters behind the scenes anymore, Darcy. It's come out into the open.
Like a billboard, only smaller.
Exactly. Like a billboard.
Wow.
Many little billboards, only smaller. The person now isn't happy enough to just make Mary and her husband and her friends' lives miserable behind the scenes. This person wants them to suffer in public, wants the public to be aware of what they think is going on. Okay? So Mary, of course, like anyone would, gets out of the bus, starts tearing the signs down, throws them in the bus, like desperate to try to get this stuff out of people's attention. Her husband ends up going out in the morning before she takes the bus route to take the signs down so their kids don't see them, because the signs say nasty things about the daughter and Mr. Massey.
Wow.
Really disturbing stuff. Okay. So in August, this goes on for a while. So this is March. It starts in 77. By August, there's been tremendous strain on the family and on many people. Mary's husband receives a letter that changes everything. This time the writer says that Ron has to go and confront Massey with a gun, and implying if he doesn't do this, there would be deadly consequences. Do you have any idea what Ron Gillespie did, Darcy, in response to that letter?
Well, I hope to God he didn't take his gun and go and confront the person, but my guess is to try to end this, he probably did.
Well, something inside Ron snapped.
Oh, yeah.
The man, especially someone targeting his wife and his daughter. Like that's just beyond the pale, right? That evening, after receiving the message, he grabs his revolver, of course, full of guns, stormed out of the house, told his children he was going to confront the letter writer. Now, how he knew who the letter writer was, how he knew where the letter writer was, we never know, okay? He sped away the truck. Did he actually get a confrontation, Darcy? Or do you know what happened to Ron and this event?
I think he had an accident, because I don't feel that he actually got to where he was going to go. I think something may have deterred him, or flat tire, but I think he had an accident.
How in the world can you judge that, Darcy? I mean,
there was so much anger there that he's not paying attention. And when we don't pay attention, guess what? We have accidents. I don't think he shot himself. I think it had more to do with the vehicle.
Damn it, you're right. Have a look at photo number 9. The poor man. It's not nice. This is a disturbing photograph.
Oh.
A few miles from home, his truck veers off the road, slams into a tree, sadly, killing Ron Gillespie instantly. Okay. The investigators who came upon the truck and investigated the scene found his revolver beside him, one shot fired. Now, they were never understood where the shot went. They never found the bullet, but they know that he died. And as you say, do you think now, seeing that photograph and hearing what I've told you, is that an accident? Is that a result of Ron being not careful enough and being so angry, or something worse?
No, they said accident. They said he had an accident. I don't think he reached out the window and shot his truck tire. This is an accident.
So no one forced him off the road into the tree?
Oh, that's totally different.
Okay. Do you think anything untoward happened? I mean, it's untoward enough that he slammed into a tree and was killed, but did he do it by himself?
No, because remember I said something detoured him. So It is feasible. He could have been pushed off the road. He could have been something that was in his way. Like, headlights. I've heard people say, the really bright headlights, they swerved to get away from them. So yes, was there possibility foul play here? There is a possibility of it.
Okay. All right. Well, the coroner ruled it an accident, said it was caused by alcohol, but the family didn't believe. The man wasn't a drinker. Now, I don't know about tests and all that kind of stuff that they did on the body, whether there was a high alcohol level, but the reality is that in general, people didn't believe the story that he died as a result of being intoxicated enough that he couldn't drive. Okay.
Okay. Did he go the windshield?
I don't know. Couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I just have that one photograph. Looks like he slammed into a tree pretty well directly. The letter writer soon after sends a little note that's pretty creepy. He says, or she says, You'll learn who really killed him soon. Now, they might be just taking advantage of the fact that the poor man had a terrible single car accident caused by his own inattentiveness, and they're just pretending that they know, or they may actually have known something. I don't know. You get any sense?
I'm sort of leaning. The reason I asked if you knew if he went through the windshield, because in front of the vehicle, I know you can't see it. I can see an image there as though something's standing.
Oh,
and I know
okay.
you can't see it.
Right.
But if the writer knows anything, then they're involved.
Okay. Because all I see is we have a black and white pic of a crushed front end of a truck. Can't really see much. And there's certainly nobody but bushes in front of that you're seeing some person standing there.
Yes, with the broken heart and everything. So I'm thinking, and there's interesting. You can't see it, but I've got a whole bunch of different initials going on here. I do have Mary written in there, and M.E. Mel 58.
Where are you seeing this?
In the bush.
In the bushes. Oh, I just see like a obscure blobs, black and white.
I know.
Wow.
But anyways, and the question why. Okay, there's a few things going on there.
Okay. Wow. Well, you said you saw a figure. Can you tell if it's a male or a female figure?
This looks like a man.
Okay, looks like a man. Okay, so we're narrowing back to the man. All right. So now the letters didn't stop after this, Darcy. In fact, they escalated even further. And I'd like you to now look at 2 photographs of 2 men who are key to this storyline. Okay? I'm going to test your mettle and ask you which of these 2 men is Gordon Massey. You're going to look at photo number 10 and look at photo number 11 before you give us an answer. Okay?
Okay, so
photo number 10 is a black and white of an attractive man.
That'd be Gordon Massey.
Why do you say that? What's wrong with photo number 11, which is another man with dark hair and a mustache, a little bit older?
Yeah, that's it. If I'm going to have an affair with someone, it's going to be the cuter of the 2.
Good point, Darcy. Really good point. I hadn't even thought of that. That's terrific. Yeah. Yes, he's a good-looking man. I would say he'd be the one I would go for. Yeah, I wouldn't go for 11. You're right. Okay, what does number 10, the photo number 10, Gordon Massey, what does he tell you?
He definitely looks in a position of authority. He's handsome, straight. You know, given the fact he's sort of got not exactly emotional eyes, the photo number 11 has more emotional eyes. Don't know if it's because they're lighter. They come across as lighter.
Right.
But
yes, they are lighter.
Photo number 10, definitely. I'd be intrigued because he seems like a book that's waiting to be opened.
Oh, okay. How interesting. All right. Well, we will find out who photo number 11 is in a minute. So we go now for several years, and the letters keep coming. Nobody in the town is safe. Nearly every resident gets a letter. They're accused of petty wrongdoings, but also major things, affairs, of being pedophiles, of committing fraud, even local officials. Like, nobody is safe. All right. And somehow this writer knows intimate knowledge of many, many people. How is that possible? Have you any thought?
Wouldn't it be like a doctor, a hairdresser, a librarian? Where else do you go where you sit and talk to total strangers?
So you pretty well lined them up. Yeah, you're right. Be any one of those people.
A nurse.
The whole town is filled with conspiracy theories, of course. There's paranoia. A lot of problems among families, a lot of problems among friends, everybody distrusting each other, wondering, is that the person doing it? So nobody could find, we still don't know who has done this. The author knows an awful lot of secrets, like you say, so almost like a confessional, I guess, maybe even the local priest.
Yeah. I knew there was someone else.
You could certainly think someone in a confessional is going to hear this kind of stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
But I like your idea, the hairdresser, the doctor, the lawyer, these kinds of people, the barber.
Like a deputy?
Yes, exactly. There's a number of people in the town who could have this. What are your ideas? What?
The admin in the police station, because she is privy to every piece of thing that goes through.
Good. Yes, that's true. She probably files every bit of paper.
Yeah.
So we've proven there's a lot of people who might be knowledgeable enough to write these letters. Okay, so they keep on going, but then something else dramatic happens. Mary's doing her route. Same old thing. This is years later. Now we're in 83, so 6 years from the beginning. She discovers more signs. I guess it's becoming routine. Gets out of her bus, pulls the sign down, gets back in the bus, keeps on going. This time, she was about to pull down a sign when she noticed something was a little unusual. It had a string, a rope, believe it or not.
Oh.
She doesn't pull the sign down. She kind of looks around and she finds, believe it or not, a homemade booby trap. There's a pistol in a box rigged to fire if the person takes the sign down. Can you believe that? So,
Yeah, I can, given this person's mentality.
well, I have 3 shots of this little booby trap, which we can't show the audience, unfortunately, but they can imagine. If you can describe 12, which is the booby trap, and 13 and 14 is the booby trap being taken apart. If you could have a look at those 3 images and just tell us a little bit about them.
Okay, number 12 looks like it's attached to some sort of post, and it's like a box. Think of a shoe box, only wooden. And you open up the top of the shoe box, and there's an eyelet attached to the post that goes through a hole that goes to the trigger. So if you pull the box open, that's going to cause the trigger to be pulled. It would have had to been a lot of weight to be able to pull that trigger.
Yeah. I mean, maybe
I don't this out.
Yeah, I don't know if it was ever going to be effective or not. Fortunately, Mary didn't pull the sign down that way, so we never really know. But it's the whole idea is ridiculously sick.
Yeah.
And if you look at 13 and 14, that's just sort of the inside bits of the box in 2 different photos. I don't know if you get any sense of the person who might have done this by looking at the actual objects.
Well, what's interesting is that's a small gun, still a little bigger than a woman would use.
Okay.
But yeah, it just looks like there's the twine that they used to rig it. They wrapped it around and pulled it through. I don't know if this gun would have gone off because I don't think there would be enough pressure
Right.
for it to happen.
So do you think, number one, a sexist comment here, that a woman would undertake to make this kind of booby trap, or is it more likely to be a man?
I'm leaning more likely to be a man.
Okay. Secondly, do you think Mary Gillespie knew it was a booby trap and that's why she didn't pull the sign down?
Well, I don't know if she thought it was a booby trap, but it does make me wonder if she knew about it, because wouldn't that deflect from her if she had pulled it down and got shot? Well, maybe it might have just wounded her. But the fact, it's almost like trying to take the attention away from her.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. So do you get a sense that the person who wrote the letters is the person who created this booby trap?
No.
You don't get a sense, or you don't think it is?
I don't get a sense, but everything says to me, someone must have believed Mary wrote that last one, because I'm leaning that way when I look at it. In fact, she knew there was a booby trap, and maybe they thought she did it. But if she did, it would maybe more to bring attention to, let's clean this mess up. But this is a man. This is definitely a man.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
And you're getting that certainty. Why?
Just because of the shape of the box. Unless Mary was known to be able to create woodwork herself, this is it's a crude box, but nonetheless, I would say a man did it.
Okay. I think that's a fair statement, especially for the time in the 70s.
Yeah, because we weren't allowed in woodworking then.
Yeah, it wasn't common at all for women to be involved in that. And I think Mary, I hate to say it, but probably a very stereotypical Ohio wife and mother, bus driver, right? Just living a normal life. I doubt she would be out in the shop making boxes. I would agree with you. Okay, well, we don't know who did this. We do not find this out. But Mary, of course, tells the police. And they trace the weapon back to someone that Mary knows.
Okay.
They trace it back to our photo number 11. If you go back.
Okay.
And this man is Paul Freshour, her brother-in-law.
Oh.
Okay. So he's been involved in, knowing what's going on and all along with his wife, Karen. Now, he and his wife, Karen, have had a bitter divorce. All right. The police decide, they investigate, and they analyze Paul's handwriting, to see if he is the letter writer, because presumably the letter writer put the booby trap up. This is the theory, right? They look at his handwriting and they decide that, yes, even though it's not conclusive, and I guess it never is, that he's the letter writer, although they never charge him for that, but they do charge him for making the booby trap.
Okay.
So they charge him for attempted murder. He's convicted of attempted murder, and off he goes to prison for many years. Okay. So now I want to show you Paul's handwriting. This man in photo number 11. They gave a sample of Paul's handwriting to compare to our letter writer. Okay.
Yeah.
Now if you look in photo number 15, we have a letter that Paul has written. Now it's a work-related letter. I don't want you to read the whole thing because it's really got nothing to do with what we're talking about, and it's very mundane. But it does show a bit about his handwriting. The trick is, of course, it's a typical letter, so it's mostly written in lowercase. So we don't have our letters to choose from. But if you just have a look at it for a second there.
Okay.
Okay, so if you just quickly look at it, just have a look. I will show you on photo number 16, my little analysis. Okay?
Yep.
And here's my little analysis. So Fresher's own handwriting. I've taken the words, would you please, off, and suggested. Okay? Now, I've noted, they're not capitals, so that's obviously an issue.
Yeah.
But just for fun, he has a rounded A we see it in please. He has a rounded O. We see it in off. He has a different crossed Y, no longer the goalpost, but cross. Okay, so that's different. He has a round W, not a double V. Okay, and he has a regular, what I would call, regular underscore G. So it's kind of hard to tell what his G might have been like as a capital. But one thing quite curious, he always capitalizes the letter F and the letter T when he's writing a basic underscore letters. Kind of different.
Yes.
So that's Paul Freshour's own handwriting. That was assessed by handwriting experts, graphologists, and they decided that they thought he was the culprit, but they did not charge him for that. Okay. So what do you think?
Based on his handwriting?
Yeah.
No.
Right. I agree with you. I don't think, now, of course, we're not experts, and we don't have a lot of capitals to choose from, literally to assess. But I don't think his handwriting is the same. So he goes to prison for attempted murder, not for being the Circleville letter writer. Okay?
Oh, wow.
Okay. So what happens when he's in prison?
Well, several things. He could get off. The letters could keep coming. And at which point, if they've come from prison, guess what? They monitor the mail there.
Right.
So, yeah, it's the fact that when I look at his, I just can't see it. The Y is one of the best giveaways.
It is, because we no longer have the goalpost, which has been in every other one.
Yeah.
And I don't know that. We've got to remember, this is the person or persons writing many, many, many letters carefully, right? If you have to make them fit those little 2 lines and the height, it must be tedious work, number one. You're going to make slip ups, as we've kind of, I think we've discovered, where the changing in the letters, it's becoming more revealing of the person's true style of writing. I would think over time it would be pretty boring to be undertaking this horrendous job of writing letters.
Yeah.
Bound to some mistakes, right? But they think it's Paul. I don't think it's Paul. You don't think it's Paul.
No, because I still feel like there's a direct connection to the writer is still free.
Okay. Well, Paul sits behind bars for about a decade, and the entire time he's behind bars, letters keep coming.
Oh, wow.
Paul is in segregation. Paul is denied pencils, papers, pens, writing of any sort. The letters keep coming. They even go to the prison warden. So if Paul's writing these letters, he must have done it before he went to prison, and he wrote hundreds of them, because hundreds of them happening in a decade. Does he have an accomplice doing this for him?
No.
Okay, so he even receives his own nasty letter in prison. Have a look at 17 and read this for us, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, fresh hour. Now, when are you going to believe you aren't getting out of there? I told you 2 years ago when we set them up, they stay set up. Don't you listen at all? No one wants you out. No one, the joke is on you. Ha ha. Tell no one of this letter. I saw the paper. Great news. Great. The sheriff loved it. Ha ha. Do you believe it now? Do you? Okay, first of all, this is on plain paper. It's not written on foolscap.
It's not.
So now this implies there's 2 of them because we set them up.
Yep.
Okay, so then is this, the Y is right, the W, the O, did you notice it's a square?
Exactly. You'll see my analysis in the next photo.
Okay.
Yep. Very good.
The G is wrong.
Yep.
The D is still a square. Okay, still illiterate because believer, they've spelt wrong, but you aren't getting out. So was this, so they set him up?
This is what they're,
so here's the next thing. Is there a possibility now that the person has changed the way they're doing things?
See, that's That's the trick, Darcy. We really don't know, but I agree with you. There's a lot of changes here. And one thing that really struck me now, just talking to you, that had struck me earlier, but I'd forgotten, there's no punctuation other than the colon.
Yeah.
So there's never a question mark. Like, when
No.
when are you going to believe you aren't getting out of there? Question mark. You'd normally put no question mark, no exclamation marks, no periods, just colons to break sentences. I don't know whoever does that. That's a very odd approach to writing, how you would learn writing in that regard. If you look at the last photo, which is photo 18, I've done my little analysis and you've pretty well gone through it.
Oh.
I've taken the words in this note, now, are, you, and you'll see we've got a square capital A. We do have the goalpost Y back. We have a sharp double V, okay, for W. We have a square O, that's new. And we have this odd squared off G. And we also always have a small T instead of a capital T.
Yeah.
So quite a lot of differences.
There are.
And as you said, not on foolscap paper. There's no lines.
See, and now if we were to go back to Paul's original letter, it's on foolscap paper. So is it possible he wrote them and had someone mail them for him?
That's a good question. And could he have written hundreds of them before he went to prison? I mean, does this man have nothing else going on in his life? He's writing letters and letters.
Yeah.
And he had to anticipate that he was going to prison for years and anticipate sending one to the warden himself and one to himself. It seems to be a bit much.
Like he would have had to know when he was going to prison.
I guess you probably get the sense of it's happening if you're on trial and it's going badly for you. But are you going to then focus whatever time you have left before you're in prison, or maybe he is in prison on remand, writing these poison pen letters, and then who are you going to give them to? I mean, there's obviously, if that's the case, he has an accomplice.
I'm surprised they didn't do a stamp analysis. Saliva off the stamp or the letter.
Yeah, I don't know if they did or not. There's no information on that, so I guess maybe the DNA analysis in those days of saliva wasn't a possibility.
But it is now.
Yes, it is now. So I don't know what's happened with that, whether they've done it or not. There's been no information about that. But it's a good point. There's lots of them, and there's lots of letters, the actual envelopes as well. So it makes no sense that Paul's the letter writer, or that Paul's the letter writer of the ones that while he's in prison. Okay, and we both said he's not the letter writer at all. So he finishes 10 years of his sentence, comes out. Okay, so his marriage is ruined, his house is gone, his life is in tatters.
The dumps.
Poor guy. They think he created that booby trap. He denies it. He said someone took his gun, the old statement. I don't know if Paul Freshour made that booby trap. What do you think?
I don't think so.
So you think he was innocent and went to prison for something he did not do?
I do.
Okay. And not only that, you think he's innocent of being the Circleville Poison Pen writer?
Yeah, I'm sort of leaning to his wife. They had a nasty divorce.
Yep. His wife Karen has been put forward as a possibility. There's no doubt. But really, in the end now, we have no answer. Paul dies years later, still protesting his innocence on both accounts. People talk about Mary being possibly involved. They talk about her husband before he died, possibly being involved, but of course he's dead. They talk about Gordon being involved. Nobody's come up with, as far as I know, the administrator at the town hall, or the local priest, or the local doctor, or the barber, or the hairdresser. We have no idea who wrote these letters.
Wow.
Do you have idea whether they were written by more than one person, at least? Can you tell us that?
I still feel like it's one person doing the writing.
Why did they stop?
Well, the person may have died.
They stopped after he came out of prison, and everybody thought that was kind of odd. And they remained stopped for quite a while. And then they started up again years later.
Yeah.
Targeting a journalist who was involved in the whole storyline. So whether that's a new person, I don't have any information on what those letters looked like, whether the handwriting was similar or not.
That would be cool to find out if they were similar in handwriting.
Yes, it would be. Yes, I have to look into that. But from our perspective, the 1977 to him, when he comes out, group of letters that I've been able to assess, I would say, I guess they're probably written by the same person. I don't know that it was Paul, but I just can't imagine a personality doing this for years and years and years. Hundreds of letters. Think how much time each one takes to carefully write so you disguise your handwriting. And we see how difficult it is because they do, if it's the same person, they do struggle because they do change their letters at times. So they are feeling something. Do you have a sense of this person? Do you think it's male or female? Become that?
I'm still getting the image of a man's hand. Okay. So I'd still stick to male, but it's someone who's jealous. Like the idea of, unless it's a woman who's illiterate and she can have, like I've seen women with square hands just like men, but my instinct, this is all about jealousy. You have more than I do. Therefore, I'm going to try to ruin your life.
And you think that's more, I would have thought that's more a common emotion from a woman.
So would I. That's why I'm saying it's really hard, because it could be a woman, it could be a man, but my instincts will say that the blocking would refer to male, but I've seen women do blocking.
Yeah, that's the trick. And of course, blocking hides handwriting.
Yes.
When the FBI is talking about handwriting, the block letters makes it difficult to judge, because we generally make block letters more similarly than we have our cursive flowing hand that we normally would use ourselves.
Yep.
Well, Darcy, we haven't solved it then.
No.
The mystery of the Circleville letter writer continues.
It's going to continue for a while, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, thanks. That was a fascinating discussion. We've never examined handwriting in this way before. We've looked at a bit of signatures in the past, but I think it's interesting that you were able to hone in on a few points, but that you're still struggling as to whether it's a man or a woman.
I am.
That's a tough one. Yeah. Which is not, I guess, really not surprising when you think of it, because a lot of seriously trained scientific people have looked into this over the years, and there's no answer. So it's not something, obviously, we're going to solve in an hour looking at our own letters, but it's one of the most bizarre episodes that I can think of that someone would undertake. Like, I just can't see that would be your dedication to do this for your 10 more years of your life.
But what if there's someone who's disgruntled with the way the town treated them?
But why Mary as a main target?
Maybe because she didn't return an overturn.
Yeah.
It could be that she was pretty and the other person's not. It could just be she had everything, like the husband, the kids, everything that person wanted. There's no rhyme or reason to why people do things when they're jealous.
Yeah, and jealousy is such a terrible emotion. That's true.
It is.
It's very poisonous, like poison pen letters. It eats at you. And I guess one of the things I find with someone writing a poison pen letter, you don't necessarily get the reaction you want.
No.
Because you've written it and it can be kept secret. Keep writing, or you have to keep pushing it. And even when it's out in the open, obviously there wasn't enough of a reaction to help them, because they kept writing it. So they were never getting satisfied from their efforts.
No, it was like someone in the background behind a camera. They're filming, and they never get recognized because they're behind the camera.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. I think you probably nailed it. I think that's the person who's done this is like in plain sight.
Yeah.
But someone not remarkable, unremarkable. Yeah, almost invisible. Exactly. And is desperate to be visible, going about it all the wrong way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, change your hair color. Paint it pink. People will notice you.
Yes, that might be an easier thing to do than writing hundreds of nasty letters and ruining people's lives. And in fact, causing a man to go to jail and a man to die. Yes, or a family to lose a father. Terrible.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Darcy. That was a great discussion. Really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you for listening to Seeing Dead People, where goosebumps are guaranteed. We would love to hear from you with questions for Darcy about her psychic process, or suggestions for other mystifying situations you would like us to investigate. Please shoot us an email to info@radiosydney.ca with Seeing Dead People in the subject line. New episodes air on our website, radiosydney.ca, on the first Saturday of every month. Episodes repeat Saturday nights at 8 p.m. and Sunday mornings at 10 a.m., both Pacific time. All episodes are available as downloadable podcasts at our website or on our YouTube channel, Nicola Furlong Mysteries. I'm Dorian Mortis, weirdly keen on seeing dead people. This has been a presentation of Radio Sydney.